Since the caretaker government took control in August 2023, the big question has been who will lead the next government? We thought the answer might have been clear after the February 8th elections, but it's fair to say this election cycle has been pretty wild. And now it seems we've ended up back where we left things last August, with a slightly facelifted version of the PDM government. The People's Party and PMLN have entered into another alliance, although this time PPP claims they won't be taking any federal ministries. However, Asif Ali Zardari looks set to return to the seat of president. It's all quite bizarre, and a host of smaller parties have also taken up their invitation, isolating PTI, which has been unable to properly reform and entice parties to form a coalition with them, despite technically having the most seats after the election. They also claim significant levels of election rigging against them, and to be fair, have proven themselves the nation's top choice, despite significant roadblocks in mobilizing their vote. But how will PMLN, supposedly a conservative right-wing party, and PPP, supposedly a more liberal left-wing party, possibly run a government together? At Samjo, we've analysed both parties' manifestos to highlight where they agree and where possible conflicts might arise. Let Samjo explain. A manifesto is a document produced by a political party before an election that spells out exactly what the party believes the issues are and what they intend to do while in power to solve them. In order to pass any legislation, you have to win the majority of votes in Parliament, so any bill produced will have to have both parties' approval. The issue is complicated further, because this is still Pakistan after all, by PPP's decision not to take control of any federal ministries, which produce bills, instead opting to control the committees which scrutinise the bills. Let's start with where the two parties agree. In energy policy, both PMLN and PPP are targeting solar power, with PPP making it the basis of all energy investment, while Noon League also targeted other measures, like switching gas plants to run on LNG and starting to pay bills in rupees instead of dollars. In policy for Mazdoor and labourers, PMLN plans to issue a health and education card to ensure access, while PPP also plan to issue labour cards that give access to things like children's school fees, pensions, health insurance, and social security. Noon plans to raise the minimum wage and give labourers a retirement plan, while PPP wants to introduce an old age benefit. On the environment, both PMLN and PPP plan on banning plastic bags and are planning to implement clean air policies that tackle smog, with Noon League implementing carbon credits that places caps on emissions from big polluters. They also plan on controlling crop burning, while PPP wants to launch a Green New Deal, perhaps inspired by America, to bring in investment. Other areas of overlap include provisions of loans to farmers and an introduction of a tech-based approach to agriculture, loans to students for university, and a peace-based approach to foreign policy, stressing friendly relations with all neighbours, with both highlighting the need to strengthen relations with fellow Muslim nations. PMLN more explicitly stated its wish to make peace with India, and to complete the remaining phases of CPEC. In many areas, however, the two parties' approaches differ significantly. PMLN has a plan to abolish the National Accountability Bureau and to ensure courts make decisions faster, in 2 months for simpler cases and within 1 year for complex ones. PPP, on the other hand, wants to introduce a new court, called a Federal Constitutional Court, and to make major changes to the selection process for judges. In health, both parties agree on free healthcare for Pakistan's poorest, but have characteristically different approaches. Noon League wants to build a medical city in each provincial capital, including a specialist cancer centre, as well as introducing clinics on wheels and improving access to telemedicine, and placing power over healthcare in the hands of a central hospital management authority. PPP has issued a target of 6% of GDP to be spent on health, a huge boost given it's currently around 1%. They also want to increase the number of nursing colleges and focus on building new hospitals for maternal care and children. Both parties do agree on research and administering vaccines to prevent communicable diseases. With education, both see the need for a spending boost from around 2% to 4% for PMLN and 5% for PPP. However, the People's Party plans to focus on primary and secondary education, pledging mandatory free education and access to primary schools within 30 minutes and secondary schools within 60 minutes. PMLN wants to establish its Danish schools nationwide with high-quality education and boarding for pupils, but its main focus is on increasing access to higher education from 13% of the population to 30%. Other key measures from PMLN include the introduction of senior citizen cards, protection of minorities' places of worship and assets, and programs for the rehabilitation of abused children, while PPP pledged to establish old age homes and establish a minorities commission. The most key area of all is the economy, without which the measures we've mentioned before couldn't be taken. Theoretically, this is where the two parties should have least in common, so let's take a look. The PPP planned to fund its pledges by raising the tax ratio to 15% of GDP, nearly tripling the current rate of 5.8%, while pledging an increase in salaries of 8% every year, and the abolition of subsidies to the elite, which they valued at 1.5 trillion rupees. They plan to invest in development projects and create new sources of attracting foreign investment while providing soft loans through the Vasile Haq program. The PMLN's primary target was to reduce the inflation to between 4 and 6% in 5 years, with a drop to 10% by 2025. They want to halve the current account deficit to 1.5% of GDP and nearly double exports to $60 billion. They pledged to create 10 million jobs, reduce the unemployment rate to 5% from 8.5%, and raise Pakistan's per capita income from under $1,500 to $2,000. Characteristically, PPP plans to subsidize the production of local goods, but plans to cancel the majority of subsidies that incentivize businesses. On the other hand, PMLN wants to exempt exports from any domestic taxation while increasing the duties the client would pay, reduce the import duty on raw materials, and issue tax concessions for sectors which are new exporters. A hybrid government of these parties will need to deliver on some, if not all, of the promises they made in their manifesto, but only if the public holds them accountable. If this election cycle has proved one thing, it's that voter loyalty is no longer enough to secure government. Now let's make them perform for Pakistan if they want to be re-elected. Share this video if you found it useful and subscribe to Samjho for more.